in society ever. And you speak with a lot of scientists, and they will tell you environmental response to 7.5 billion people on this planet, sort of running amok with no organization, no conservation efforts built into society, meaning global policy, corporate structure, schools, all that stuff. So that is a really hard one to swallow. I actually say this with all humility. I've actually never been busier. I'm up at 4:30 every morning and in bed by 11:30 or midnight. I'm building a massive regenerative, bourbon company with Paul Wesley. This is a big global company. This isn't the size of Casamigos. This is Tito's. This is a much bigger thing. And a nutraceuticals company that I built a formula to keep my own body going, and realize, why am I putting this on the market? Again, it's the balance, right? Bourbon, spirits, community, fun, conversation, family, and then health and wellness. And then the movie environment. So I just plugging in my computer. I don't want to lose you. For me, it's all about creating these balances and creating a well-rounded understanding of how I should be living my life. And this is my calling, which is building not sustainable businesses, building regenerative businesses that use for-profit dollars to infuse and generate and create structure and finance for the necessary nonprofit initiatives that need to be financed in the world. And I think that millennials and Gen Zs are going to prop up and support businesses who have triple bottom. The future of business is the company with the triple bottom line, right? People, planet, profit. That's it. And I think companies who are going to refuse and be, are going to resist that, most likely won't continue for forever. And so I'm grateful again to be able to have this conversation with you, and to everyone out there listening. This is the hardest time. Let's hope and pray, and let's make it so that this is the single hardest time in our life. Let's make sure that this is the last time. Obviously pandemics will arise, but the health of the planet, whether it's social justice or environmental justice, the health of the planet is in direct response to the health of humanity. And very much like the human being, the health of the human body is completely related to the health of the gut biome. The earth, being the same biological process as the human body, the health of the earth relies on the healthy biome, soil biome of the planet. So when we regenerate our soil, we will regenerate ourselves, our planet, our food systems, our water supplies. We will balance our climate, and we will build an economy, a global food economy that is so prosperous for our farmers and retailers and wholesalers. That is what's so exciting. I mean, these are really big things. This is what I do all day,
Yeah, and I think we all remember a moment where we became really excited about a new interest or found our calling in life. It seems like you have this calling for the environment. Do you remember what created that? At which moment did you know that you wanted to spend a significant amount of your life focused on this issue?
Well, honestly, Fiji, it's like what you and I have spoken about at great length. Your background is so unique and diverse, and mine is similar to yours, which is I grew up in Southeast Louisiana, which is a really delicate ecosystem. And I had parents, my mom's parents were Mississippi farmers. So we had the farm, I always called it surf and turf, right? We had the farm inland, but where I grew up was a really delicate marsh estuary. So my father always taught me that if you don't put back as much as you take, it creates this huge imbalance. And in a delicate ecosystem, even as a really little guy, it's easy to see that imbalance when it happens, right? You see it socially. It's all of your parents talk about. It's what's on the news. And in the 80s in Louisiana, they were dredging Lake Pontchartrain, and it killed the lake. killed the biodiversity, killed the wildlife. And so when I grew up, all the fundraisers and the big conversations at the music festivals or in radio was save the lake. So the community came together with the policymakers to tell the companies and the fishermen and oystermen and crabbers and shellfishermen that we have to protect this body of water. Otherwise, all of our livelihoods are at stake. And I saw that as a little one. And I realized I have to live a life of balance. Now, obviously, I will tell you, it's hard to do that. The amount that we fly, we all fly for business. You know, I did 80 to 90 flights a year for almost a decade while shooting Vampire Diaries. That is an immense amount of carbon. I'll be the first to tell you that, you know, a lot of those were commercial flights. A lot of those were private flights. I look into eating my carbon on a daily basis. And from a corporate level of all of my companies that I'm starting, we have direct carbon offset programs for that exactly. Because again, people, planet, profit. You can't do one without the other. So that's where this sort of quest for balance and building biodiversity came from. And then many, many, many years ago, I met a guy named Peter Seligman, which you probably know his name. He's he's a co-founder and former president CEO of Conservation International, which hands down is the most organized and funded international conservation organization in the world. And diving into the CI machine and really understanding on a global level how business affects the world, and that consumerism, empowered smart consumerism, will literally drive not only the global economy, but can heal the planet. And to me, when you hear that, you just think at scale. I can't think of anything other than at scale because of being an entertainer. You know, at the height of Vampire Diaries, between Facebook and Instagram, I think that I forgot what we were reaching. I think it was somewhere in the realm of anywhere like 380 million people a month.
That's insane.
So that's to me scale, right? That's, if you can affect change in that level, the world will shift on its axis. And for us with Kiss the Ground, if you think of every Gen Z or every millennial, or even baby boomers at this point, but when these young people demand, whether it's in high school or college, grad or undergrad, mall developments, airlines, airports, sports stadiums, every major national and global grocery retailer, when this generation then demands that every leaf of spinach that they eat, every piece of broccoli they eat, every chickpea they eat come from a regenerative farm, the world will shift on its axis. And we will not only stop climate change, but we will go back to global cooling. We will actually offset all of the ails that climate change has given us. That to me is the best news I've actually ever heard.
Yeah, so let's talk about the film for a second. Like, you're talking about basically the concept of the film is really educating us on regenerative farming and the fact that this is a solution to climate change. Can you say a little bit more about how it works and why does it matter that we are really aware of the impacts that farming has on our environment?
Yeah, you know, here's the crazy thing. Listen, I'm not trying to make a bunch of false claims. It's not coming from some crazy California liberal actor guy. I'm a poor kid from Louisiana that grew up on farms. You know what I mean? I'm not like, so the simple way to put it is we could take every car off of the road, every plane out of the sky, every maritime shipping vessel out of the oceans. We could shut down every coal-fired power plant in the world right now, and climate change would still happen at an alarming rate. And you say to yourself, how? How is that possible? Why? Two reasons. One is we have put what's called the legacy load of carbon into the atmosphere that cannot come down. And the other one is agriculture. Land mismanagement produces more greenhouse gas than anything. fossil fuels are by no means the only reason for climate change. And this is what none of us knew. So when you till soil, which is what every farmer does, right? When you till soil, when you damage soil, it releases one thing: carbon. Can you believe that? The one thing that we do every, say, March, April, is till the soil. And what NASA has shown us is all the climate models. I mean, when you look at the CO2 models, or the CO2 levels, in that time period is when we see the biggest plumes of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Now, as May, June, July come, what happens? It disappears. Why? Because all of those plants are growing and they're pulling that carbon out of the air and they're putting it back in the ground. And that is regenerative farming, which is using instead of monocultures, polyculture farming methods, using planned grazing techniques of hooved herbivores, cattle, the most vilified animal in the world, because they're put in feedlots and they're fed the wrong food. And of course they produce a tremendous amount of methane. This model of regenerative farming, which is a no-till mass scale farming, can literally stop climate change by sequestering carbon, putting it in the ground, replenishing and revitalizing and rehydrating our fresh water supplies, producing oxygen. On top of that, your yields are bigger. So from a farmer, if you're getting more bushels per acre, your yield is higher, and what happens? You make more money. So these are real big win-wins. And I'm not saying this is the only silver bullet. Obviously, there are other components. But I will say, again, with steadfast conviction, that this new breakthrough in science is what will lead us out of the doldrums that we've been in. And that's what's so exciting, because it's not doom and gloom. This is happening now. This film launches tomorrow. There are farmers already geared up and ready and doing this. And Kiss the Ground is the organization. Okay, come on in. The organization that is backed up to the film, and all of the curriculum and farming techniques we give away for free. This is what we do.
Yeah.
Isn't that powerful?
No, I love the point you're making about the fact that it is profitable for farmers, or can be profitable, because, you mentioned our common background. I grew up, as you know, in a family of several generations of fishermen who also had deep, deep respect for the sea and our environment. But the challenge has always been that a lot of the solution to have less impact on the environment in both fishing and agriculture came at a massive cost to farmers and fishermen. So I like that the solution that's put forth in the documentary is actually really combining the interest of farmers with the interest of the environment. So that's really promising and exciting. And I definitely encourage everyone to watch this wonderful documentary. One more question for you. As I mentioned earlier, we recently launched the Climate Science Information Center on Facebook, and the goal is really to connect people to information about the crisis, as well as to show them ways that we can really come together and take action together. And actually, since 2015, people have raised over 80 million through Facebook fundraisers to combat climate change and support the environment. So I'm just curious if there are some ways that you hope people can use Facebook to support our climate crisis. And what do you believe more generally is the power of coming together as a community in supporting our Earth and creating this sustainable future that you're talking about?
Well, it's what's really amazing about what Facebook has done. If you look at not just even the Facebook groups, some of the most powerful, I say this not to sound like a Facebook salesman, but these Facebook groups, some of them, I peruse them and get involved in them. They are some of the most powerful groups on the planet, because it's a very, very structured, unique sets of people with very specific expertise and passion. Now, you go into the world of like purpose. We all want to find our purpose, and it's very elusive. What's the equation for purpose? Well, I find that when you marry skill with passion, you get purpose. And I've found a lot of people in these Facebook groups that really found purpose in their lives. So they're open to not only suggestions, but they're free and willing to share their expertise and their passions. And I have learned so much. Also, too, if you look at when Facebook has set up these donation pages for some of the really big things, they've raised more money than even the US government or other big governments in the world have given to some of these big disasters. Facebook is the leader in raising that money. And so what I think people can do now is really get involved in some of these groups and really find the ones that speak to you, because when you find that community, and this is only specific of Facebook, because Facebook is really a community, right? And when people sit down to go on Facebook, it's more of they're making a point to sit down and have a moment so they can communicate, whether it's friends, families, or colleagues, or these groups that they are finding. They're being able to lend their expertise and passion to a particular group for a number of really great causes. And my mind is always blown. I love coming into the Facebook headquarters and spending time with you guys, because it's mind bending, some of the initiatives that you guys have set off. And when we sit in these big meetings and we look at what Facebook has done versus what some of the biggest organizations in the world and truly the biggest governments in the world, what they have done, in there it's amazing, but what they've done compared to Facebook pales in comparison. So I would say, which is what I've been doing, is really diving into these groups, because I've found immense ways of contributing and gotten so much support from some of these groups. On the financial side, it's unbelievable what Facebook has done. And then on the community side, seeing these people have a real place to come and talk about things, and then create actionable items outside of that become something that they're really connecting with outside. They're connecting real dollars to real causes, creating real quantifiable change. That is what changes the world. And that's why I'm so humbled to be your partner and to be able to, be doing this at this level with Facebook, because I learn every day, not just from you and your team, but from the people that I get to communicate with. It's wild.
Thanks, Ian. Thanks for saying that. I think if people are wondering how to get involved, I agree, like these groups are fantastic, and we can even maybe post afterwards a series of like really great groups that are tackling the problem of climate change. But the thing I love about what you described, which is like, it's regular people helping each other on how to fight that fight in their regular lives. And I think that's what makes it so powerful, because you keep talking about scale, and I couldn't agree more. Like, that's what scales. We need a lot of these people in our local neighborhoods, like taking on that fight. And I'm really excited to see. We also have very large groups of farmers, groups around certain industries are very popular on Facebook, and they exchange a lot of advice. And so as I think about regenerative farming, that could also be an avenue for them to learn about that, exchange tips, and really amplify the movements that you started.
Well, Fiji, first of all, I just wanted to say, one of the big things, because I wasn't going into specifics, and because I was just trying to not just make everything go back to the movie, because it's so big in my mind right now, especially that we launch tomorrow. But the farmer, so Facebook is the only social media platform that farmers are on. Farmers are not flipping through Instagram or Twitter. They are on Facebook when they get home after a really long day, or in the morning, maybe with their coffee, and they are connecting with other people who do what they do. Now, one of the big things that I'm so excited about to do with you and your team is the Kiss the Ground side of Facebook, which is going to be incredible. being able to share and connect with these farmers, because at the end of the day, and you and I've spoken about this, you're never going to find an argument for wanting to help farmers, the people that feed us and our families, make more money, do better, be healthier, and help us change the climate. You're never going to find an argument for that. And so that's been the biggest things that I've actually learned the most of, other than medicine, like medical stuff, is the farming side, the farming groups on Facebook. That has been incredible. And I can't wait to, for Kiss the Ground to be able to partner with these groups and really start sharing this information. So the level of depth, the depth of gratitude and appreciation I have for you and your team, you'll never know. So thank you for letting me be here and do this.
Thank you so much. We actually have some questions from the live stream, so I thought I would take.
Yeah.
Emily asking, you are so passionate about helping the environment. If there are people like me watching today that want to start supporting the work on climate change, but don't know at all where to start, what's your advice for them?
By the way, that's a really great question, because again, at the end of the day, it's such a big thing to even tackle mentally. How do we fix our planet? Well, I always say, to act globally, you have to think locally, right? So in your home, the efficiency of your home, the types of recycling that you're doing, or COVID's made it very difficult, but going to farmers markets now, it's a big thing where you can start going to these refill stations and refilling all of the household products that you need into your own vessels. So getting rid of virgin plastic, the uses of virgin plastic for the most part, things like turning off lights, driving the most efficient car that you can afford, riding your bike the most that you can, keeping yourself healthy, the food you eat, keeping it as local as possible. These are all, they seem like small things, but when we do these in unison to the tune of tens of hundreds of millions of people, that's when the big shift starts. So one household, it starts on one household or one apartment in the building, then all of a sudden it's the floor of the building. Then it's 10 floors of the building, or it's one house on the street, and then it's the whole street, and then it's the whole neighborhood. So that's what I want to encourage people to remember. You're not just one person or one family. You are part of a community that has the ability to inspire all of those around you. That's the big thing,
I think that's a great answer to that question. We have another question from the live stream, last one, which is related, but I wonder if you'll answer it differently. Serena B asked, if you could make sure that everyone in the world knows just one thing about our environment challenges, what would it be? Because I feel like sometimes there are so many facts, so much information that people become just numb to the news and it leads to inaction.
So that question is crucial, because when you feel paralyzed, right? When you open too many applications up on your phone or your, mobile device or your computer, there's only so much RAM, right? And what happens? It seizes up and it becomes inoperable, and you've got to shut it down. Rather than being paralyzed, and I say this to you again, completely with nothing but humility, we have a solution, and it is right now. And I beg of you that tomorrow on Netflix, watch our film and start sharing this film, because I tell you, as I know that my name is Ian, we will scale this, and it's not all doom and gloom. There is a solution. It's right under our feet, and we are going to make this happen. And I literally say this so that you feel uplifted and you have hope and you feel inspired. When you see this film tomorrow, if it doesn't inspire you, we have to talk. Like, I am coming over to sit down and have dinner, but
Be careful.
see
A
the,
lot of people pick you up
I
on
know, right?
that.
No, well, but that I'm joking. I mean, please share your inspiration and share how you feel, because I'm going to be looking. Watch the film, because I think once you see what we're doing and what's possible now, you won't feel so paralyzed. And our job as filmmakers, well, Josh and Rebecca are the filmmakers. I'm an executive producer, but our job uh, as a producer and a front runner of this movie is to make you know that you don't have to be paralyzed, and you are a very powerful voice in this, and you actually have the power to make that change. It's all in the film. It's in 80 minutes. I think you're going to find your voice again and say, I'm not powerless. I'm not paralyzed. I am inspired. I'm ready to go, and let's go. And I mean, I tell you that honestly, I think that's what will happen.
That's great. And to Serena, I also say, in the Climate Information Center, we've tried to distill down the key facts about climate change. And honestly, like, if we start by everybody believing that climate change is real, that would already be, a good path forward.
Right.
One last question for you, Ian, on a less heavy note. So when I became the head of the Facebook app last year, I named my conference room Joie de vivre, which means the joy of life in French. So in France, we have this concept that it's really important to find all of the little things in life that bring you joy. So every time I have a guest on this series, I ask, like, during this time of uncertainty, how have you found joy, and how do you plan on continuing to find joy in the months to come?
Because I've been building companies and we've been finalizing this film to do good in the world. And remember, you can do well and do good at the same time. There's, business is incredibly important to the health of the planet as well, and to our families. I find the little moments to look up at that sky and take a deep breath and realize that I have my health, I have my family, I have my friends, and I have enough food to eat and enough clothing to wear. But beyond that, I don't really need any more. And the more studies you find and you read and you see, trying to acquire so many things in your life actually doesn't make you happier. It actually makes you less happy. So having a walk with my daughter, planting plants, being in the soil, breathing the air, knowing that there are companies and films out there that are actually aimed at creating a better life and world for us. I know it sounds so heady and it sounds so pompous. It's not. I know for a fact that through smart business and regenerative agriculture, our world and communities and family and health and economies will flourish. Our governments, our climate will become stabilized. Our economies will grow. Our education and our health will soar. Social injustice will will become a real thing, and social injustice will disappear. Environmental injustice will disappear. We have the ability to do this right now. And I swear to you, when I have this moment to just enjoy, I was explaining to my daughter yesterday, looking through the sun coming through a leaf, and she said, "Daddy, it has veins like you." And I said, "Exactly, it has veins just like you. And it's transporting all those nutrients back to and from the plant." And you just saw this thing click in her head. Wow, I am connected to every single one of these trees that I see, every single one of these people that I see. And that connectivity and that community is one of the reasons that we started Brothers Bond Bourbon, to be honest with you. But that community is what will save our planet. That community is what will save our humanity. And we need that more than ever now. And that's why I'm so grateful to be a part of this Facebook community and to be your friend and to be sitting with you talking about these big things now. And I am just so confident and optimistic. It's been hard and it's going to get even harder, but I am so optimistic that the future is bright and we should all get our sunglasses.
Well, that's a perfect note to end on. Ian, thank you so much for both educating us and having such an uplifting outlook on some very hard problems. Thanks for all you do for climate change. For everyone watching, thanks for being with us. And in the next couple of weeks, we have more lives coming up. So please be sure to tune in. And more importantly, everyone stay safe. Thanks, Ian.
Thank you so much, Fiji. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And please, Fiji, thank you for doing this and bringing us all together. And thank you for being a leader and bringing conversation into the fold and allowing me to talk about these things that we're doing. Everyone watching, I know it's been hard. It will get better, and we will do it together. And I will work tirelessly night and day to make that so. But I can't do it without you, and we'll do it together. Thank you. Mwah.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you for everything.